Hello everyone, this is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 12 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. Now, before we get into episode 12, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of our listeners. All of our listeners have been listening more and more and more and more, and it just seems that every show is getting more views than the last one, so thank you all for that. It's very much appreciated here. Now, we're going to move into part one. We're going to waste no time and move into part one. Part one is called the review, where we review the fights of last weekend. Part two, of course, is called the preview, where we talk about the fights coming up. So time for part one. We're going to waste no time. We're going to start with a card that took place in Essex this week. Tony Conquest moved to 16-2 with a 4-round points win over Igoris Barucha. That was in the cruiserweight division. Just a quick little 4-rounder there. Now we're going to move over to Saturday now. This was in Hamburg, Germany. Jack Kulkai picked up a 12th round unanimous decision win over Dennis Hogan. So Mr. Kulkai now moves to 21-1. That was for the interim WBA World Super Welterweight title. Also on that bill, Kubrat Pulev, we announced it last week. He was facing off against Maurice Harris. Pulev picked up a KO win in the first round. So Pulev now 22-1. Again, another knockout for Pulev. To be honest, Ayaz, what's your honest views on Pulev? Because he's only got the one loss. I mean, it was quite a big loss to Vladimir Klitschko. But apart from that, his record is pretty much, it speaks for itself. He's a great, great fighter. What sort of future do you think he's got in the heavyweight division now, especially with it all being smashed wide open? All being smashed wide open by the win that Fury picked up over Klitschko. How do you see Kubrat Pulev's next few fights going? Where do you think he'll be possibly sometime next year? Where will he be?
I reckon he's a very good fighter. He's underrated, in my opinion. And obviously, he's only had one loss. You know what? A fight that I'd like to see him fight, I'd like to see him fight... I would like to see him fight someone like Tyson Fury, or Hughie Fury would be a good fight for him.
Yeah, I think he has earned his stripes, but I don't want to see him fight Tyson Fury just yet. I think Hughie Fury would be a good fight. Again, he's up and coming, Hughie Fury. He hasn't really fought at that level yet. But I tell you who I'd like to see him face off against in the next year. David Haye, providing he gets past his opponent. Moving down that bill also, it was a bit of a late announcement. Derek Chisora was also on that card in Hamburg. His first fight under the Sauerland brothers. He moved to 23-5. He picked up a 5th round TKO victory over Peter Erdos. Peter Erdos was just a journeyman with 9 wins, 8 losses and 4 draws. But yeah, we had to tell you about that as well. Also over in Mexico, Johnny Gonzalez, the very experienced ex-world champion, he fought for the vacant WBC International Silver Super Featherweight title. He fought against that guy with the really crazy name, Hurricane Future. Unfortunately, Hurricane Future was defeated by veteran Johnny Gonzalez. This was a 12th round unanimous decision in favour of Gonzalez, so he picks up his 59th professional win. There wasn't anything else on that bill in Mexico, but moving over to New Zealand, heavyweight prospect Joseph Parker, he was out again. He was facing off against Daniel Martz. Now, Joseph Parker moves to 17-0. TKO in the first round. I haven't seen it, but, a lot of big things are expected of Mr. Parker now. He really is moving on through the division very, very swiftly. That was for the WBO Oriental Heavyweight title. Also, another crazy card in England somewhere, can't remember where now, but Tyler Goodjohn, he moved to 12-4 with a points win in 6 rounds in the welterweight division. He defeated Gogo Savic. Nothing else on that card. Now we move over to the controversial card down in Westcroft Leisure Centre, Carshalton. I'll talk about the controversial side of it when we get to the main event. If anybody didn't see it, it was live on Channel 5. There was a lot of stuff going on in that main event, so we'll get into that in a moment. But I was actually there in attendance, so I saw it from the front row. But a few good fights on that bill. We'll start with massive prospect, the Welsh flyweight, Mr. Andrew Selby. He moved to 3-0 with a win over Brasino. Andrew Selby, he just looked brilliant. I saw him warming up, and it just the things he does, he's just so... I know he's only 3-0, but I can't wait to see him progress because he's absolutely brilliant. I met Lee Selby as well, just briefly, and I think that those two brothers are really, really going to do big things in boxing. Also on the bill, Tommy McCarthy, the cruiserweight, he moved to 7-0. He beat Martin, I can't really say his name, Martin Satmari. I think he was just there to be beaten, but Tommy McCarthy nonetheless moves to 7-0. Also on that bill, Thomas Kindon, he was fighting as well. He picked up a win. This was a points win after 6 rounds. He's a bantamweight. He moves to 7-0. Danny Cassius Connor, wow, did he impress. He moves to 14 wins, 9 losses and 2 draw. A bit of an ugly looking record, but I don't think he was taking boxing serious until he was about 8 fights into his career. I think he lost his first 1 or 2 fights. He picked up about 3 or 4 losses on the spin, but he's now taking boxing extremely seriously. And he picked up a KO in the first round. It was brilliant to see that. Real good friend of the show here. Hughie Fury was also on the bill, and after a series of pullouts from potential opponents, someone finally stepped in. It was Larry Olubamiwo. I think I've got it there. Hughie Fury 17-0. He's now 18-0. KO in the first round. It was a bit of a strange shot. He hit Larry. I'm going to call him Larry. He hit Larry sort of in the kidney, sort of behind in his lower back sort of thing, and he just stayed down. So Larry is now 11 wins and 19 losses. He's a right big lump, but he just couldn't compete with Hughie in the boxing, with his boxing skills. Also on that bill, Jordan Gill, of course, the Ingle fighter, he moved to 15-0. He defeated Harvey Helmsley. This was a TKO in the second round. And also Atif Shafiq, again an Ingle fighter. He picked up a win when his opponent failed to come out for the 4th round. He retired on his stall after 3. So Atif Shafiq now 16-1. And now the main event, the very controversial main event, Lenny Dawes facing off against Ruben Nieto. Now, Ruben Nieto was Spanish. He's from Madrid. He had a massive contingent of Spanish fans in the arena with big Spanish flags, waving them everywhere. A lot of stuff was kicking off during the fight, before the fight and after the fight with the English fans and the Spanish fans. It was really going off. At one point, Tyson Fury had to get in the ring, take the microphone off of the MC and tell everybody to calm down. Lenny Dawes, he was 30 wins, 3 losses and 2 draws going into this fight. Ruben Nieto, 16 wins, 1 loss. This was for the vacant EBU European Super Lightweight title, also known as the Light Welterweight title. Now, Lenny Dawes was disqualified in the 10th round for what the referee called an intentional headbutt. Now, there's been a lot made of this. I mean, like I say, I was in the first row. There was a few things going on during the fight. Nieto kept hitting Lenny Dawes low and nothing really happened to him. I know that Mick Hennessy was absolutely furious after the fight. He was going crazy in an interview that I saw. The security even had to tell the Spaniard boxer to stay in the ring after the fight because they was a little bit worried that something may kick off as he walked back to the changing room. But firstly, I do want to say credit to Mick Hennessy because he put on a really, really good show, and it really was brilliant the way it all came together in such a small venue. They really made something of it. Of course, it's the Westcroft Leisure Centre. It's not a boxing venue. It's literally a leisure centre. It was literally on the floor of a basketball court, you may as well say. And if you were watching it on TV, you would have never known. It was brilliant. It was fantastic to be there in attendance. It was a great fight, and if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you can get it on, Channel 5 on demand or whatever. But It was a brilliant fight while it lasted. It was an out-and-out war. Every single round, there was blood everywhere. It was a real war. It was a great fight to watch. Lenny Dawes had a few scary moments in there, but unfortunately his dream couldn't come true and he couldn't win the vacant EBU European title. Again, he should have won this title a while back in Italy, but he was robbed out there. A lot of unfair circumstances surrounded that fight in the build-up, things that I won't go into on the show, but there's a lot of stuff that happened which shouldn't have happened the way they did. So Lenny Dawes, very unfortunate. Again, he's on the wrong end of a decision. Not obviously after 12 rounds, not by the judges, but this time from the referee. So he's really been handed some bad luck, Lenny Dawes. So I feel very sorry for him. I hope he can bounce back. But yeah, credit to Nieta. It wasn't his fault. He now moves to 17-1, and he's now the EBU champion. I know Mick Hennessy's going to try to appeal against the decision, but I'm not sure what will happen. But hopefully there's a rematch because it was brilliant and it really did warrant a rematch. Moving over to the Hilton Hotel, there's just one fight over there that I want to mention. One fighter, Andrew Robinson. He picked up a win. It was only a 4-rounder, middleweight division. Andrew Robinson is now 17-1. Also now, I want to move over to the big fight, the massive fight over in Brooklyn, New York, the Barclays Center, of course. Danny Jacobs, Peter Quillin. Not much to say about the fight, to be honest, because he only went one round. Ayaz, I'll let you fill in.
My words, Jacob just smashed up Peter Quillin. That's all I can say in one word, in a couple of phrases.
That's all it was. That's all it was. I mean, Peter Quillin, who I think you picked him to win. I definitely picked him to win. Did you pick him to win as well?
Yes, I picked him to win.
Yeah, we both picked him to win. Unexpectedly, Daniel Jacobs, who I do like as well. There's nothing against Danny Jacobs here. We've got nothing against him on this show. He's a cancer survivor. That's fantastic that he's gone on to be a world champion. He picked up the win, first round TKO. A lot of people was a bit annoyed with Harvey Dock's decision. Harvey Dock being the referee. He waved it off. A lot of people, there was a bit of a mixture. Some people thought it was waved off and it was completely correct. I was one of those people. I think that he was right to call it off. And a lot of people saying it was wrong to do it. He should have been given a second chance. It was a world title fight. It was only in the first round and all this. They showed a slow motion replay on Box Nation, which I think nailed it. I think it was Barry Jones who pointed it out. Good observer, Barry Jones. And basically, Daniel Jacobs he caught Quillin with a good shot and he was just steaming into him, absolutely flying left, right, just steaming into him with everything. Now, Peter Quillin was doing quite well to survive the onslaught. He was also coming forward while he was throwing it at some stages of this attack. He even threw a few punches back himself that they never really landed. Jacobs hit Quillin with another shot and Quillin sort of backed up and his leg sort of buckled and it looked like he may go down, but he managed to stay up and his eyes were if you remember Curtis Stevens being knocked down by Gennady Golovkin, when he was on the canvas his eyes went all wide like he'd just seen a ghost. That's what happened to Peter Quillin. His eyes went all wide and the referee sort of had a quick look at him. It was very quick, it happened so quick, and then he waved it off. But they showed a slow motion replay and his eyes were like just staring at nothing. He wasn't staring at Jacobs. He had his hands up. He was ready to fight. And you have to admire the man's heart. He's a great fighter, Peter Quillin, Kid Chocolate. And the referee waved it off. But as the referee's waving it off, Peter Quillin, if he didn't agree with the decision, he'd be looking at the ref. Or if he even knew the ref was in front of him, he'd be looking at the ref. He was looking completely over the ref's shoulder with his eyes wide open. He was not ready to take a few more punches. It could have been quite dangerous, to be honest. So, in my opinion, good stoppage. Moving down that bill, Jesus Marcelo Andres Cuellar was also on the bill. He picked up a unanimous decision after 12 rounds. He now moves to 28-1. That was for the WBA World Featherweight title. He defeated Jonathan Oquendo. Jonathan Oquendo was down in round 4. Jonathan Oquendo now 26 wins and 5 losses. And I'm going to mention one more fight that was also on this bill. It's the last fight I'm going to mention on part 1. Chris Algieri, he was back in the ring. He picked up a win over Eric Boney. So Algieri now 21 wins and 2 losses. Again, those 2 losses don't write his career off there. They're to Manny Pacquiao and they're to Amir Khan, so you can't moan about that. And he also knocked Boneh down in round 8. So again, unanimous decision win there for Chris Algieri after 10 rounds. And that's really it for part 1. So we'll bring on now our first guest. Okay, now it's time for our first guest on this week's show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gary Spike O'Sullivan. Gary, Spike, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it.
No problem. Okay, so you've got this fight coming up on Saturday, and thank you for coming on the show at such short notice. Thank you for coming on so close to your fight. Spike, I'm going to start with an irrelevant question for the minute. I just want to know, did you watch the Daniel Jacobs Peter Quillin fight at all?
I seen the clip of it, yeah, it didn't last long, so I think that was more a tall fight.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because he just seemed to just blow him out of there, which was quite surprising, to be honest. I had Quillin winning that fight, but yeah. Okay, now this fight coming up on Saturday, Chris Eubank Jr. Do you consider this fight the biggest fight of your career so far, Spike?
Yeah, definitely. We just won because I'm going to fight for the world title after. So, yeah, it's the biggest fight of my career, yeah.
So you'd say it's bigger than the Billy Joe Saunders fight?
Well, it is because I think the reason being is because I'm going to fight for the world title after. When I fought Billy Joe, I wasn't going to fight for the world title after that one, so this is bigger because of that, but I'm not fighting a better fighter.
So, of course, you know, the winner of you and Eubank goes on to the winner of the fight the other day, which we just mentioned, Quillin and Jacobs. So have you had a little look at Jacobs? I know you're not looking past Eubank, but have you had a little look at him? Would you have preferred to face him rather than Quillin?
Didn't bother me either way, to be honest. Whoever's the champion, I'm just going to have to take it off, and I believe it's my destiny to become middleweight champion of the world, and it doesn't matter who's the champion at the time, I'm going to win anyway. I think Daniel Jacobs is a guy that I've got an awful lot of respect for. One of the guys I respect the most in the world. I think he's a great guy, and having beaten cancer and got to where he is, I think it's an amazing story, and I'd like to congratulate him on his win, and looking forward to getting along with him in the not-too-distant future.
Okay. Now, a lot of people are surprised that you haven't tried to get under the Chris Eubank's skin. Obviously, Billy Joe did this and it worked pretty well. Instead, you've taken a different approach, one that surprised many people. You haven't really said anything bad. Why is this, Spike?
I never ever say anything bad about anyone once. I used a bit of banter on social media to get the fight. There's no, just like really for Chris Eubank. There's nothing bad to say really. I think he's an arrogant guy. He wouldn't be my favourite guy out there, but I certainly don't hate him. I don't really say nothing bad to him really.
Even though what you're saying, you know, your reason's 100% valid, I personally can't see you staying quiet all the way up until the fight. Something's going to happen at the weigh-in, Spike. I know what you're like.
It's a possibility. I just go with the flow, man. Just, whatever happens, happens. I have nothing planned.
And do you
do whatever I feel like.
Chris has refused to face off with you before because he said that you kissed an opponent. He's talking about Anthony Fitzgerald. Do you think he will face off with you at the final press conference and the weigh-in, or do you reckon he will avoid it?
I don't know, and I don't really care what he does. It's irrelevant to me. I don't care what he does. I just he can do what he wants. I'm going to do what I want, and I'm going to do what I want on Saturday. Just smash him up.
And now, of course, you're on a good run at the moment. You haven't been past 3 rounds in any of your last 5 fights. All of those fights you've won by knockout. Last time we spoke, you said you don't really go into fights looking for the knockout. It just comes. Will you be going for the knockout against Eubank?
I will be, yeah.
You will be.
I don't think I'll get the point decision over there because he's the best amount of money financially in him, and they want it to be like his father and Sky. So I don't think they'll be looking for me to win. They won't want me to win. I think if there's some points, I won't get the decision. probably letting me have to knock him out again.
Because I know sometimes you hear a lot of fighters saying, "Oh, it's going to be an absolute war. We're going to go at it from round one," and they say all this, and it doesn't happen. I believe what you're saying. I believe what you're saying. If you're saying you're going to go out there and you're looking to smash him, you're looking to knock him out, I believe what you're saying. So, everybody who perhaps isn't sure if they're going to be tuning in or not, anybody that's listening, you're advising them to tune in because it's gonna really be what you say it is. You're going to go in there to knock him out, nothing else but knock him out.
100%. I never talk shit. I 100% talk exactly about what I'm going to do, and I do exactly what I'm saying. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to knock him out. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I said the same about Andy Fitzgerald. I told you, knock him out, even though no one believed that because he'd been distant with Hassan Madam and Andy Lee, and they were like, no, not a chance. He was a tough guy. He is a tough guy, and I got so much power when I hit you. That's it. Doesn't matter who you are.
He's a good puncher, of course, Chris Eubank Jr. I know that, obviously, as you know, he's as we all know, he's not your favourite person in the world. He's a good fighter, though. We have to give him credit for that. But to be honest, Spike, I've seen you dodge a stall. So if you can dodge a stall, I'm sure you can dodge Chris Eubank's hands. But I'm going to pass you over to Ayaz now, my partner. He's got a couple of questions for you, and then we'll wave you off the show.
Okay.
Ayaz, bring yourself in.
Yep. Hello, Spike. How you doing?
Very good, Ayaz, you?
Yeah, I'm good myself. Spike, how do you see this fight going on Saturday with you and Chris Eubank Jr.?
Well, I prepared very, very hard. I trained harder than I ever had in my life because I never wanted to win a fight as much because I'm going to fight for the world title after it, and I've left no stone unturned and feeling amazing. And I just think it's going to be a knockout, 100%.
What do you think of his? What do you think of Chris Eubanks Jr.'s dad being on "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here"?
He's desperate for money. I think he just put his. I know for a fact he begged for the Golovkin fight also, and he couldn't get the Golovkin fight. So that was the second biggest fight financially for him that he could get, and that's why he's put his son into this fight with me. Big mistake. His dad doesn't give a shit though. His dad doesn't give a shit. What happened to him? His son, before he put him up for adoption when he was a young fella, and he ended up living out in Vegas for a few years. Poor old Chris Jr. was terrible. What his dad done to him, and I think he's doing a terrible thing to him. This thing also, he's exerted the amount of time he needs when he has the toughest fight of his entire life, and he's just left and went to the jungle to get more money, and he's putting poor Chris into a fight with me just to get money for himself as well. And I don't believe Senior truly believes he's going to win this fight either, because he's trying to make a comeback himself to fight Nigel Benn, because he knows his son's career is quite possibly going to be over on Saturday night.
Would you consider taking Golovkin on?
Would I consider taking Golovkin on? Is that what you said?
Yes.
100%. I would love to fight him. Absolutely love to fight him. It'd be great. I like his style. I like his style. He's a good guy, great champion. I'd absolutely love the opportunity to fight him. And I know he's only human like anybody else, and everybody can be knocked out. And I got the power to knock anybody out. And he's hit a villain. I'll knock him out and become the number one middleweight in the whole planet, which would be a dream come true. I'd love that opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass you on back to Joey.
Thank you.
Okay, Spike, the last thing I wanted to ask you, the other day I watched the face-off, the Sky Sports gloves are off production thing, and Chris Eubank said something about he'd offered you to fight a few times and you deliberately priced yourself out of it. I just wanted to hear your side of the story there. What is there any truth in what he said? I mean, what's your side on that?
Well, he's deluded to think that I wouldn't fight him. I'm here, I'll be there on Saturday night, don't worry about that. And he's talking absolute trash, absolute rubbish. About me trying to price myself out of the fight. It's like, the last time was I was promoted with Frank Warren for 4 years, and Chris was with Frank Warren at the time, and we were trying to make the fight, and Frank Warren wanted options on the contract. He wanted me to fight with him for 4 fights after. He knew it. Warren knew it. I beat Eubank. So thing is, he said after the Eubank fight, I got to fight 4 fights, or 5 fights in the beginning with him. Then we got him down to 3. We actually agreed in the end to do 3 fights with him, but it just didn't happen because he wanted the money kind of made out for the next 3 fights as well, which was absolutely ludicrous because Chris Eubank Jr. was ranked number 1 with WWE at the time and it was interim world champion. When I'd beaten Eubank, then I probably would have to fight maybe Glasgow, who knows. And they wanted to sell out the money that I was going to make in that fight prior to me signing the contract for the fight with Eubank. It was just impossible. Couldn't do it. Plus, I'd been warm for 4 years already, so I just had to sign him with the Murphy's boxing as well, so it was just a backward step for me to go back with Warren, I thought, and couldn't do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be listening and a lot of people will, they wouldn't have known about that. So thank you for sharing that with us, Spike.
My pleasure. Just true.
It seems like he's blaming you, you're blaming him, but at the end of the day, the fight's sealed now, it's signed, and it's here on Saturday. It's so close. I cannot wait for it. I think it's the fight on the bill, and I'm not lying when I say it. I think I'm looking forward to this fight more than any other fight on that bill. I think this is the most intriguing fight, and like I say, when you say that you're going out there to knock him out, I believe what you're saying. So I wish you the utmost luck, Spike. Not that you need it. I think if you land on anyone, they're gone anyway. Doesn't matter if it's Eubank or if it's a stall. So thanks once again for coming on the show, Spike. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and best of luck in the fight. I'll probably see you sometime this week anyway.
Yeah, thanks very much, Joey. Appreciate it. Thank you, man, and take care, and we'll see you over there. God bless.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 of the BoxHard podcast. This is the part where we preview the fights coming up this week. So on Tuesday, the 8th of December, it may have already gone by the time you listen to this podcast. But Dennis Duglin, we remember he fought and lost to George Groves. He's out on a New Jersey card. He's fighting a guy called Elvin Ayala. Dennis Duglin, 19 wins, 4 losses. Elvin Ayala, 28 wins, 7 losses, 1 draw. Chad Dawson's also on the bill. He's now 32 wins and 4 losses. He's in a 10-rounder in the light heavyweight division against Shuja El Amin with a record of 12-8. Now that's it for the Tuesday. Moving over to Friday now, on the 11th of December, a really strange one over in Puerto Rico. Nonito Donaire, he faces off against Cesar Juarez. Now, Nonito Donaire, his record now 35 wins, 3 losses, and Cesar Juarez, 17 wins, 3 losses. This is for the WBO International Super Bantamweight title. Also on that bill, Felix Verdejo, he's also out again. He looks to move to 19-0. He's 18-0 at the moment. 10-rounder for the WBO Latino lightweight title. He faces off against Jose Nilson dos Santos, who has a record of 27 wins and 3 losses. I think that's it for the Friday. There's a few strange ones again, like they're just scattered everywhere. It seems to be the case this time of year. Everyone's just jumping on whatever bill they can, to be honest with you. We're going to move over to Saturday now. A few strange ones on Saturday as well. We're going to start with a card down in Australia. Vic Darchinyan, he faces off against Chris Paulino. Vic Darchinyan, 41 wins, 8 losses and 1 draw. It's only a 10-rounder. It's for the vacant WBC Asian Boxing Council Super Bantamweight title. Chris Paulino's record's 14 wins and 2 losses. Also over in Denmark, Patrick Nielsen, he faces off against Rudy Markusen. Nielsen with a record now of 27 wins, 1 loss, and Markusen 39 wins, 3 losses. That should actually be a good fight, to be honest. I hope I can watch that somewhere. Now, a random card. A lot of people were linked with this fight, but over in Moscow, Russia, Roy Jones Jr. against our very own, he's Welsh, so he's our very own British fighter, Enzo Maccarinelli. Roy Jones Jr. with a whopping record now. This is his 71st professional fight. Roy Jones Jr.'s current record is 62 wins and 8 losses. It's a 12-rounder cruiserweight division. Enzo Macronelli 40 wins and 7 losses. So these guys have got almost 120 fights between them. So that's absolutely crazy. Moving down that bill, Dmitry Chudinov, 16 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws. Remember, he lost his WBA interim belt to Chris Eubank Jr. He faces Benjamin Simon, who has a record of 26 and 2. Chudinov was actually a really good fighter, so I hope that he can get back to winning ways. Also on that bill, Alexander Ustinov, he faces off against ex-world champion Samuel Peter. So Ustinov now 32 wins, 1 loss. Samuel Peter now 35 wins and 5 losses. Moving over to Ukraine, Max Bursak, he's also in a fight. It's only an 8-rounder. His opponent hasn't been announced yet. His record's now 31 wins, 4 losses and a 1 draw. He's been in a lot of big fights. Moving over to Blackpool, Matti Askin, this is also on the Saturday. Matti Askin faces off against Svacina. Matti Askin now 18 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, and Svacina 12 wins, 17 losses. Should be a good win for Matti Askin. Again, a tough fighter, very underrated, and a massive lookalike for Marco Huck. Luke Blackledge is also on that card. He's now 20 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. But again, his opponent hasn't been announced yet. Moving over to the massive bill now in the O2 Arena. A lot of people have criticised this for being pay-per-view. I think it is pay-per-view worthy, to be honest. Not for the quality fights on the bill, but just purely for all the names on the bill, all the fights on the bill. I think there are some good fights on the bill, just to add. Kevin Mitchell faces off against Ishmael Barroso. Kevin Mitchell, 39 wins, 3 losses. Barroso, tough opponent, 18 wins, undefeated with 2 draws. Obviously, this is in the lightweight division. It's a 12-rounder. It's for the interim WBA World Lightweight title. Should be a really good fight, this fight, and I think it will be quite tough. But I think Kevin Mitchell should pull through. How about you, Ayaz?
The Kevin Mitchell fight, yeah, this is a very tough fight for Kevin Mitchell. Obviously, they're saying the winner of this fight has to fight Anthony Crolla. Is it the WBA?
Yes.
Yeah, so the winner of that will fight most likely Anthony Crolla. So I reckon Kevin Mitchell's in a very tough fight. His last fight against Linares, that was my word, that's probably, it could be fight of the year in my opinion. The way Kevin Mitchell was that fight, he's getting hurt, but he was still giving it a shot until he got stopped.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can question his heart. I think he's got one of the biggest hearts in boxing. He's too brave for his own good sometimes. Moving down that bill, Anthony Joshua faces off against Dillian Whyte. These guys are both unbeaten, of course. Anthony Joshua 14-0, Dillian Whyte 16-0. The belts that are on the line here are the Commonwealth heavyweight title, the vacant British heavyweight title, and the WBC international heavyweight title. So the winner's going to have 3 straps around his waist come the end of the fight. This is a massive fight, isn't it, Ayaz? There's no getting away from this. It's a huge fight. There's a lot of grudge between these two guys. Of course, they fought as amateurs. They hate each other's guts. Dillian Whyte knocked him down and beat him in the amateurs. Anthony Joshua's come on a long way since then. He's knocked everyone out he's faced. He hasn't been over 3 rounds yet. What do you think is going to happen here, Ayaz? How big of a fight do you grant this one? How big of a fight do you think this is?
In domestic wise, this is a very big fight. Obviously, they're both rivals. I remember I was watching last week. The gloves are off at Joshua and Whyte, and Whyte was like, "Let's have it, let's have it, let's have it, let's have it." And Whyte's got something against Joshua. Like they just like it's his enemy, and obviously like. Even in the amateur, I was watching the fight yesterday. I was actually watching the amateur fight again. The Joshua vs Whyte fight. Whyte was very good, but since Joshua's won that Olympic gold medal, he's just risen. He's getting better and better every single time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you say, there's a lot of hate between them. I think most of it's coming from Dillian Whyte. Again, Joshua, he's like the darling of British boxing at the moment. He hasn't really sort of said much horrible stuff or much derogatory stuff, but definitely a lot of tension between them. As you can see, some of the stares that they were giving each other on the on the face-off on Sky Sports. You can see that there's a lot of stuff between them. Yeah, so that's going to be a massive fight, but we are going to speak to Dillian Whyte shortly. So we're going to move over now to the undercard fight, of course. Another fight on this card. Tony Bellew, he faces off against Matthias Masternak. Tony Bellew, 25 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw, and Masternak, 36 wins, 3 losses. I think this will be a tough fight for Bellew. And it's for the vacant EBU European Cruiserweight title. But I do think Tony Bellew's in deep waters here. This should be a really tough fight. I hope he pulls through, and I think he will. But it is a tougher fight than some people think it will be. Luke Campbell as well, a massive lightweight prospect. A lot of people already think he's the best lightweight in the country. He faces off against Evan Mendy. Luke Campbell is only 12-0, and Mendy is 32-4 with 1 draw. This is a 12-rounder lightweight division, of course. Also, we spoke to him earlier, Mr. Gary Spike O'Sullivan. He faces off against Chris Eubank Jr. This will be absolutely tremendous, this fight. I'm telling you, you've got to watch it. It's going to be brilliant. I promise you now, it's going to be brilliant. Chris Eubank, 20 wins, 1 loss. Gary Spike O'Sullivan, 22 wins, 1 loss. Both these guys have lost to the same guy in Billy Joe Saunders. This is a 12-rounder in the middleweight division. Chris Eubank Jr., some of the best skills in the middleweight division. Gary Spike O'Sullivan, some of the hardest punching hands in the middleweight division. I think if it goes to points, I've got Chris Eubank. If it goes early, I think Spike O'Sullivan will knock him out. I seriously think Spike O'Sullivan will get outboxed and he will lose on a decision. Or if he catches Chris Eubank clean, he will knock him Spark out. Ayaz, give us your prediction.
I was watching the public workout for Chris Eubank Jr. and he's actually in very, very good shape. Spike O'Sullivan, obviously, he's a puncher, like you said as well. If I have to give it, if it's a knockout, it'll be Spike. If it goes to points, it'll be Chris Eubank.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be an absolute cracker. That's probably the fight I'm looking most forward to. Also down that card, a bit of a strange announcement. Gianluca Branco, he defends his EBU European welterweight title against nice guy of boxing, also part-time boxing pundit, Mr. Paulie Malignaggi. Now, this is his first defence, Mr. Branco. This is his first defence of it. He won the title in his last fight, but he's been out of the ring, not out of the rear. He's been out of the ring for a year and a little bit now, so about just under 13 months. So he's been out of the ring for 13 months. So again, a bit of inactivity, but then again, Paulie hasn't been extremely active, to be honest, this late in his career. So Paulie Malignaggi, he always said he wanted to win the European title because I think he's got Italian blood from his granddad, and he wants to win this title, and he wants to give this title to his granddad. So Paulie Malignaggi's had 2 fights this year. Of course, he got knocked out in devastating fashion in the 9th round against Danny Garcia. That was back in August. A month later, he was in the ring against Laszlo Fazekas. He picked up a win in Italy, and Fazekas had a record of 27 wins and 21 losses. So a bit of a journeyman sort of record there. And Paulie beat him unanimously. He won every round practically. He won after 8 rounds. But this is a good fight. And I will say, Branco is a good opponent. Branco's record, 49 wins, 24 of those wins coming by knockout. So basically a 50% knockout ratio, a percentage, should I say. And he's got 3 losses and 1 draw. Now, his 3 losses, get a load of this for people that may not know. His 3 losses, 1 loss to Arturo Gatti. There's no shame in losing to him. 1 loss to undefeated at the time 25-0 Miguel Cotto. He managed to knock him out. This was in the 8th round. This was back in 2006 though, and his last defeat was in 2010 to Matthew Hatton. This was over in Dagenham in Essex. So he hasn't lost for the last 5 years. But then again, saying that, he's only had 6 fights in the last 5 years. So he hasn't been extremely active. Paulie Malignaggi, obviously, I shouldn't have to say his record. Everybody should know the fights he's been in and the type of people he's faced off against. But he's 34-7. 34 wins, but only 7 coming by knockout. Again, he's been in there with a lot of top guys, but this is a bit of a test for him. He's 35 years old now. He's been in a lot of wars, a lot of tough fights, but both of these guys have lost to a Hatton. Obviously, Paulie Malignaggi losing to Ricky Hatton and Branko losing to Matthew Hatton. But again, I think that's going to be a good little dust-up. That's in the welterweight division, of course. And these guys are vastly experienced. You know, Paulie Malignaggi's had 41 fights, and it just seems like he's been around forever. Branko, well, he's had 53 fights. So it'd be a good fight, that one. And Branko, I should mention his age as well. Paulie Malignaggi being 35 and Branko being 45. So that's a really old boxer there. 45 years old. So there's a 10-year age gap here, so this would be quite bad if Malignaggi loses to Branko. I think that would be the end of Paulie's career, to be honest. He wouldn't want to carry on fighting after losing to someone who's 45, who hasn't been extremely active in the last couple of years. Also on the bill, the pride of Leeds, Josh Warrington. He faces Jorge Sanchez. Both of these guys are unbeaten. It's for the WBC International Featherweight title. Josh Warrington 22-0, Jorge Sanchez 15-0. It's a 10-rounder. This will be a good fight. I'm looking forward to this one. Again, Josh Warrington, I really hope he does well. He's got a brilliant fan base. He's just moved from one thing to another. He's smashing everybody's expectations, getting all these wins. Also on the card, Martin Ward faces Miguel Gonzalez. Martin Ward, 12 wins, no losses and 2 draws. Miguel Gonzalez, 13 wins, 4 losses. Reece Balletti's also out again. He's 4-0 at the minute. He's only in a 4-rounder. He looks to move to 5-0. Jake Bull is on the card as well. He's 3-0. He looks to move to 4-0. It's only a 4-rounder. And Ted Cheeseman, his 3rd professional fight, he looks to move to 3-0 at the moment. 2-0. Good prospect for the future, Ted Cheeseman and Jake Bull. Andy Ruiz Jr., he's out again. His opponent hasn't been announced yet, and it's only going to be an 8-rounder. But just to note, you know, he's a good fighter in the heavyweight division, and he's looking to pick up another win again. He's been out twice in the last couple of months. He fought in September and October. Both of those fights wins after 8 rounds on unanimous decisions. Over in San Antonio, Texas, Omar Figueroa, he's out again. He faces Antonio DeMarco. This will be a really, really good fight. Omar Figueroa, 25 wins, 0 losses and the 1 draw. Antonio DeMarco, 31 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw. This will be a really good fight. Also in the heavyweight division, this is a really tough fight. Dominic Brazil, 16-0, faces off against Charles Martin. Now, Charles Martin is supposed to be fighting Glazkov for the IBF title. Again, there's a lot of confusion at the minute, but Tyson Fury, who beat Vladimir Klitschko, took all his belts. The IBF are already calling that he fights for his mandatory. He fights his mandatory fighter. So the guy who's in the mandatory position is Glazkov, and if Fury doesn't defend against Glazkov, which he can't because he's contracted to fight Vladimir Klitschko in a rematch, then Glazkov will fight for the vacant title against the next in line, which is Charles Martin. But again, Charles Martin's in a really big fight here. Dominic Brazil, 16-0. Charles Martin, 22-0 with the 1 draw. Also, that's a 10-rounder, by the way. Also on that bill, another 10-rounder in the heavyweight division. Chris Arreola, he's back. He's at the minute 36 wins, 4 losses and 1 draw. He faces Travis Kaufman, who's 30 wins and 1 draw. Again, that'll be a tough fight. And also, the last fight I think that we're going to mention now for the part 2 of this show, Victor Ortiz. He's in a 10-rounder. His record now is 30 wins, 5 losses and 2 draws. This is in the welterweight division. He faces Orlando Lara, who has a record of 31 wins, 6 losses and 2 draws. And I think that is it. That's it Thank you very much for listening to part 2. We're now going to bring in our second guest of this show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dillian Whyte. Dillian, welcome to the show.
I'm hi. How you doing, man? You alright?
Good. I'm going to ask you, how much of a change has it been, Dillian, suddenly working with Jonathan Banks?
It's been alright. It's been a little bit difficult because I've had to change and work a lot of things, but it's been fun as well, because we've made it fun. So it's been a little bit difficult, but nothing really strenuous or too hard,
Okay. Now, of course, Jonathan was preparing Vladimir for his big fight with Fury, and he also was training you at the same time. How was that time divided between you both? Did you feel that you had enough time? Is there no stones unturned in the build-up to this fight with Joshua?
No, listen, the thing is, Vladimir and his people is professional. JB and me, we are professionals, so we know we have a job to do. We don't really mess about, so we keep it professional and just get the training done.
It's a bit of an awkward position that you're in, but what did you think of the Fury-Klitschko fight? Were you happy that Fury got the win?
Listen, I wasn't surprised because this is heavyweight boxing, and in heavyweight boxing, nothing surprises me. What I find out with a lot of big men in sports and life, one day they can be good and the next day they can be average, or one day they can be in form and the next day they can be, and it's heavyweight boxing. We always one punch or one bad night away from disaster, so it wasn't a surprise to me. I guess when two people step in the ring, I always expect the unexpectable, and that's what Tyson Fury went out and did. So I'm sure Vladimir was greatly disappointed in his performance, and that's why he wants a rematch so badly, so he can prove to himself as well as the people that it was just a half night for him,
And also, what's your views on David Haye's return to the ring, Dillian? Do you think he'll be able to get back to the top of the tree?
Well, he's young enough. Like he keeps saying, he hasn't taken enough punishment and stuff like that, and he's rested for 3 years, and his body is refreshed, and his mind is refreshed, and he's hungry and all of that stuff. But, who knows? But I wish him all the success, and, David has got a lot of power, he's explosive, he's got a lot of experience, that he's built up over the years and time. So who knows? Who knows how much ambition he really have left, or how much he wants to fight. But he's got the ability to do whatever he wants to do, and that's a different story. We have to wait and see.
Okay, now we move on to the big fight you have on Saturday. There's no doubt this is the biggest fight of your life. Is that fair to say, Dillian?
Say again?
I said this big fight Saturday. There's no doubt in saying this is the biggest fight of your life. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it is definitely the biggest fight of my life. But I've always been a struggler since the day I was born. So for me, it's just another little struggle I've got to get over. I've always had ups and downs and hardship in life. So for me, it's just another hurdle I've got to get over in this stage of my life, really. So,
Of course, you're a massive underdog here. Are you someone that thrives under pressure, or do you just feel numb to it?
To me, I'm one of those kind of guys that always want to go out and fight and put a good fight and knock somebody out and give the fans what they pay to come and see. But for this fight, I don't feel under pressure, because for this fight, everybody is expecting me to go in there and lose. So the pressure is all on Joshua. Only pressure there is in this fight is what I put on myself, and I haven't put any pressure on myself because I believe in my ability and what I can do, what I'm capable of doing. And since working with Jonathan and stuff, we've added a couple more new dimensions to my game and made me a little bit more boxing savvy as well, which is good. So, there's no pressure, man. There's no pressure. All the pressure is in him. He's the next Lance Lewis, the next Muhammad Ali, the next Mike Tyson. So all the pressure is in him. I'm just going there to do what I know I can do, and it's to beat him again.
Now, of course, in the amateurs, you guys fought, but it was very early on in your fighting careers. You knocked him down and beat him in the amateurs, of course. Do you think this fight has got any chance of going to the judges, or do you reckon it's going to end in a stoppage, Dillian?
Well, you never know. I'm sure he's going to be looking for a stoppage, and I'm sure I'm definitely going to be looking for. I'm definitely going to be. He's definitely going to be trying to stop me. I'm going to be trying to stop him. So I'm not sure, but I know that if it goes to the scorecards and it's close, I'm gonna get robbed anyway. So, but whether it goes the distance or it goes to the scorecard, it doesn't really matter to me, to be honest. I've trained for 12 rounds, a 12-round hard, tough fight. So,
And the last thing I want to ask you now, you've said a few times now that Anthony Joshua is a fake. Seeing as you can sort of say whatever you like on our show, whereas you may not be allowed to say certain things on the TV or in other places, would you care to elaborate on that, Dillian?
Yeah, listen, if you look at the guy's career and what he does and the way he acts and the way he goes on when he's in front of the camera, and then you look at the way, like even under camera and stuff, he goes on like he's this good boy, he's this good role model and stuff. Then after, when he's by himself and his media people and stuff is not around, he posts certain pictures of him doing certain things and acting a certain way and pretending to be this bad boy that he's not. And secondly, he just lies all the time. He lies like he tried to say at the head-to-head we had to be separated by security, which was a lie. There was no security separating us. I offered him I said to him, let's go. He didn't want it. He was like, we was in there for 45 minutes. Why didn't you say what you want to say? I was like, he didn't want to go. So no security. And listen, if me and him was going at it, what security could have stopped both of us? No security. Nobody could have stopped both of us, really. So he just, he lies about who his trainer is. Like Tony Sims is the front man. Robert McCracken is his new trainer. He just lies. He just constantly lies. Like, he's not consistent with what he says. He says one thing, then he does another thing, and he acts a certain way, and then he pretends to be a certain way. I'm just like, just be yourself, dude. You don't need to. I know, obviously, you've had a lot of media training and sports psychiatry and stuff, and they tell you what to say and how to speak, but, you got to be a man. You got to be a man and be yourself, I mean, you can't just either a robot with a battery, one day that battery's going to run out. And I got a very good idea that battery run out on Saturday night.
And also, of course, there was a bit of speculation that there was a bit of a altercation after the Gloves Are Off episode in the studio, in the Sky Studios. Was there any truth in that, Dillian?
It wasn't a real altercation. Listen, I told him, forget all this talk here, because, you see, what Sky done is, I'll be honest with you, Sky, they cut a lot of the Gloves Are Off out. Like, there's bits in it where he was being really sexist towards women as well. Everybody is ridiculing Tyson Fury, but there's bits in it where he was saying, shake my hand and stop being a woman. Why are you acting like a woman? Stop being a girl, be a man. And I said to him, why are you being sexist? Like, I got daughter, why are you being sexist? Like, and then he goes, you talk like Mike Tyson, but you fight like a girl. And I said to him, listen, I don't understand why you're being sexist, because we've had there's lots of great technical female boxers out there that I respect, so I don't understand why would he say something like that. Like he said, I'm saying, listen, Natasha Jonas, Nicola Adams, and all those guys, they all did well in the Olympics. The Irish girl, Cecilia Barrakas, and all those females, they did well in their career, and they're just as good as us boys are. So I didn't understand why he was being so sexist and saying all them things, you know what I mean? Like, so there's lots of things like that bits that he mentioned about my kids and stuff like that. And then when I got mad and stuck it on him, Sky's cut an hour interview down, 45 minutes interview down to 20 minutes or something. And they edited it because obviously they don't want Golden Bollocks to seem like, they don't want to show Golden Bollocks' true character, so they cut it down and edit it to make it look like, I was being over aggressive, I was saying stuff that, and he was just being normal when it wasn't like that, But we all into this world through females, and I don't understand why he would say sexist things like that towards women. That's what I mean. Like the guy, he acts a certain way, but when he's behind closed door, when he's with his friends, he says things that's really quite disrespectful and quite demeaning towards people, and I don't respect that. I don't respect that, especially towards female, because I got six sisters and I got a daughter. So for me, when a man's being disrespectful or saying stuff towards look at Tyson Fury said one or two things about female, and they're making a big deal of it. But Sky is cut what Anthony Joshua said about female to make him look good. You know, that's what I mean. It's a joke.
Okay, Dillian. Well, yeah, thank you for coming on our show and, you know, giving your piece, giving your say, especially so close to your fight. I appreciate that big time. So, yeah, that'll be put in this week's show. So thank you very much for giving us a bit of time. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I wish you the best of luck on Saturday night, sir.
No worries, man. Thank you. God bless.
Okay, now that concludes episode 12 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Thank you very much for tuning in if you've listened this far. Today we interviewed both of the underdogs for the two top fights this weekend. Obviously, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Spike O'Sullivan. We spoke to Spike O'Sullivan earlier in the show, and also we spoke to Dillian Whyte, who will be facing Anthony Joshua. So it's been a really interesting show. It's good to hear some in-depth stuff that perhaps not every boxing fan knows. So it was good for both of the boxers to go in depth with us. So thank you very much to our guests this week. Thank you very much to Ayaz Sumra. Thank you very much to everybody who listened this far. As I said, please follow, please share, please retweet, please like, please favorite, and please, absolutely please, tune in next week. Thank you very much.